If you're serious about history, self-reliance, and, well, the uncomfortable truths buried beneath modern convenience, you're in the right place. Before we go any further, take a moment to subscribe to Iron Age Instincts and, share this video with someone who still believes industrial agriculture is the only way forward. What you're about to hear isn't folklore or internet hype. It's a wartime soil practice that helped nations survive starvation, quietly sidelined once it threatened profits. What most people don't realize about World War II food production is how desperate the soil crisis really was. By the early 1940s, Europe's farmland was exhausted. Decades of monocropping and early chemical fertilizers had stripped soil of life. When blockades cut off imports, nations faced a brutal reality: either rebuild soil fertility fast or watch civilian populations starve. Scientists, agronomists and farmers were forced to abandon peacetime assumptions and, return to biological fundamentals. The result was a soil strategy that dramatically increased yields using waste materials, microbial life and carbon-rich amendments. It worked so well that post-war agriculture had to deliberately forget it. The secret wasn't a product, but a process rooted in living soil. What wartime agronomists rediscovered was the power of carbon-based soil building, especially composted organic matter combined with charcoal-like material known today as biochar. During World War II, this wasn't branded or patented. It was called soil conditioning, humus restoration, or simply rebuilding dead land. During the war, folks returned crop residues, kitchen waste manure, ash from wood fires, and even low-oxygen burned biomass back to their fields, and they did it on a pretty large scale. This approach, you see, created soils that held onto water, fed all those important microbes, and released nutrients slowly over time. Fields treated in this way, they consistently outperformed those that relied on chemical fertilizers. In fact, they often produced 2 to 3 times the yield, even when resources were strictly rationed. Biochar now, that worked because it solved problems chemicals never could. Charred biomass, created millions of tiny microscopic pores in the soil. These little pores acted as shelters for beneficial bacteria and fungi, while also trapping nutrients that would otherwise just leach away. During wartime trials in Germany, Britain, and even parts of the United States, soils amended with char and compost showed dramatically improved nitrogen retention. Crops grew deeper roots, resisted drought, and recovered faster after harvest. The effect wasn't a one-season boost, These soils improved year after year, reducing the need for constant inputs. Chemical fertilizer companies had a problem once the war ended. After 1945, the industrial infrastructure built for explosives and warfare was repurposed to manufacture synthetic nitrogen fertilizers. These companies needed dependency, not self-renewing soil. Carbon-rich, biologically active soil doesn't need weekly applications of purchased inputs. It doesn't collapse without a supply chain. So the narrative shifted. Organic matter was labelled inefficient. Charcoal was dismissed as primitive. Soil biology was reduced to footnotes. Agricultural education, it really did rewrite history. Farmers were taught to feed plants directly. rather than feed the soil that actually nourishes the plant. The evidence, well, it never disappeared. It was simply ignored. Long-term soil trials from the mid-20th century still exist, buried away in academic journals that hardly anyone reads these days. Where organic matter exceeded 5%, yields stabilized, and input costs, they dropped. Where carbon declined, fertilizer requirements increased, decade after decade. Modern regenerative agriculture has quietly confirmed what wartime scientists already knew. Healthy soil is, well, a system, not just a substrate. Break the system and you replace it with purchased chemicals forever. This knowledge is directly usable today, even on a small scale. You don't need a farm to apply this. Start with waste. Food scraps, leaves, paper, wood chips and manure are assets, not trash. Compost them thoroughly to avoid pathogens. Right, so separately you'll want to create char by burning wood or crop waste in a low-oxygen environment, such as a covered pit or, a metal drum. Once it's cooled, go ahead and crush it, then soak it in compost tea, urine that's been diluted with water, or any nutrient-rich slurry you've got. This step really matters because, well, raw char tends to absorb nutrients before it releases them. Now mix this charred char into your compost and work it into the soil before you start planting. It's a simple step, but honestly, it makes a world of difference. The results aren't immediate, but, they compound aggressively over time. In the first season, you'll notice better moisture retention and steadier growth. By the second and third season, the soil becomes darker, looser and, well, alive. Earthworms return. Crops require less watering and fewer amendments. It's a bit of patience for a heap of reward. During drought, these soils, really do outperform conventional beds. And when there's heavy rain, they drain without eroding. This is exactly why wartime planners relied on these methods. They created resilience under chaos. This isn't nostalgia. It's proof that high-yield agriculture doesn't actually require global supply chains. During the Second World War, food security, it depended on local inputs and biological intelligence, not centralized industry. That lesson was buried, honestly, because it threatened post-war economic models. Understanding it gives you leverage. It means you can grow food when others can't. So what this really means is that soil becomes a long-term asset rather than just a consumable resource. The real lesson World War II tried to teach us about soil is, a bit uncomfortable. When soil is alive, it doesn't really obey quarterly profits. Instead, it rewards patience, observation, and, restraint. That mindset doesn't scale well in boardrooms, but honestly, it scales perfectly in backyards, homesteads, and small farms. History already ran this experiment under the harshest conditions imaginable. The results were clear, repeatable, and, quietly erased. If this kind of buried history matters to you, go ahead and subscribe to Iron Age Instincts. Share this with someone who still thinks modern solutions are always superior, and stick around with the channel. The past holds more answers than we're ever taught, especially when it comes to surviving the future.